Welcome to Touched by Cancer, a podcast where I connect with people whose lives have been affected by cancer. Touched by Cancer is a phrase that recognises that cancer is an illness that leaves a lasting impact on both those diagnosed and those around them. Our guests will share their personal journeys, discussing the importance of early screening for effective treatment and highlight the support services that are available in Halton. Before we begin, I want to provide you with a gentle heads up. Our discussions cover cancer-related topics including diagnoses, treatment and emotional struggles. I understand that these conversations can be sensitive and I encourage you to prioritise your well-being and join us when you're ready. Hello and welcome. In this episode, we're joined by Nicola Donoghue, who works for the Widnes and Runcorn Cancer Support Group. Nicola will provide an in-depth look at the services and resources offered by this remarkable organisation. From emotional support to practical assistance, the Widnes and Runcorn Cancer Support Group plays a vital role in empowering those touched by cancer. Join us as we discover the incredible work they do and the positive impact they have on those touched by cancer. Without further ado, here's Nicola. Hello, welcome Nicola. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming here.
No problem. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to having a chat to you today about the Widnes Cancer Support Group and your role within it.
Great.
So, first and foremost, for anyone that's not heard of, could you tell us a little bit about the Widnes and Runcorn Cancer Support Group?
Yeah, we're an independent charity and we're here to help people who are affected by cancer in any way. So the phrase we use is touched by cancer, and that means it can be somebody as a patient or somebody who's caring for somebody or perhaps someone who's lost someone to cancer. And the type of support that we provide is very much emotional and psychological support. So that comes in many, many forms. From counselling, so very kind of regulated activity and very sort of governed activity, to listening, being in peer support groups, being in a social sort of situation. So we just try to cater to anything that people might need while cancer is affecting them. And obviously that can be for a undetermined amount of time. People come back for many, many years. Just depends on where they're at and what we can provide for them. So it's very much a therapeutic environment, and we very much try to just help people along. We can't change things for them. We can't change the medical diagnosis, but what we can do is support them along the way to help them through that.
Sure. I mean, I'd imagine for someone that's coming to use your service, especially at the beginning, and it being a very potentially massive change in their life, it must be difficult for them to know exactly what type of support they'll need and what will work for them and what maybe won't work for them and stuff. And I guess, how do you help people figure that out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's really important to note it's absolutely nerve-wracking walking in here. It's nerve-wracking walking through the door, even thinking of asking for help or even acknowledging that you need help is a step that happens well before we meet people, whether people encourage them to come in, whether it be a GP or a friend or somebody that knows what they're going through says, oh, there's a service that can help. Even stopping and thinking, I might need some help is that can happen months before someone walks through the door. Yeah. So really when somebody makes contact, we know that that's already been a big thing for them the majority of the time. As humans, we're not that good at asking for help. And we know that by the time people come in, they're already unaware of what we can offer, what they need, as you say, that they're not sure either. So what we generally do is, once there's an initial point of contact, then we invite somebody in to meet one-to-one with one of our staff members, so that it's a really safe space to just talk, cry if they need to, be annoyed, be upset, be whatever they need to be, in a very comfortable and private space. So we make sure that those days happen when there's not people around. And then we go through the different things that we offer, ask the person where they're up to and what's happening for them. And then we may say, these are the things that we offer, come back to us when you're ready, depending on how the conversation goes. Or we can book people straight in for whatever they think, if they know at that time might help. And that's done very gently and very much led by the person themselves. So we would never say, well, we'll book you in and take charge of it. We would just make an offer. So everything is an offer. And then people can go away and think about it, or, as I say, they can get started with things that help. So quite often on an initial appointment, initial kind of meeting of us, it will be very much somebody offloading how they feel and just say, this is what's happening, this is what I've been through. And even hearing themselves say that out loud can be quite emotional and quite difficult.
Yeah.
And often as the conversation goes along, it will result in somebody saying, maybe I could benefit from some counselling, just talking now is useful. And that often leads to a counselling referral, or it may be, I might try a therapy and that might help me relax, and then I'll think what I might need next. Some people say, I'm happy to be in groups, I want to be around other people who are experiencing what I'm going through. Or some people may sit and cry and just leave and say, I'll have a think about it, and then come back to us when they're ready. And the majority of times they do come back, and sometimes they just needed that one initial thing of going, gosh, this has happened to me, and I needed to just say it to somebody who they don't have to worry about the reaction. Yeah. So that's a big thing for people. They say things like, I'm a burden to my family, I don't want to get on my friends' nerves going on about it. They say phrases that make, they feel very negative about how they're impacting other people. And so here, when they come, they don't have to worry about that, because that's exactly what the service is set up for. It's here for them to be listened to and to be able to just be in that safe space, let out whatever they need to, and then not, they feel lighter for having done that and not have to worry about the person on the receiving end. So sometimes that can cause a little bit of friction at home, because then if people go home feeling better, they might say to the partner or the family, oh, I've had, I feel, and then the family feel, well, how come I couldn't do that for you? So there's so much to the emotion surrounded with it. And once people have made that initial contact, it really builds from there, and it is very much self-led of what people feel will help them from that point.
I mean, it sounds like a fantastic service, and it must be, like you said, it's so complex, isn't there? There are so many emotions, so many options, and no right and wrong way about how you should feel about things and how you should react to things. And so I'd imagine it's a very kind of, really interesting role and kind of important, but just so much to learn. I'd imagine, Joe, like from case to case, everyone reacting differently and things like that. Is there an activity, or is there a service, or is there a thing that is, would you say, the most popular of what you do, or would you say it kind of gets spread quite evenly across all the things that you do?
That's a really interesting question, because it's changed so much over the years. So many years ago, it was very much about being a social space, so people would come in and meet other people, and it was very much about socialising and being in a group setting, so much so that we were probably borderline fire regulations with the amount of people in one room at one time, and we had no control over that because it was drop-in, so it was very much whoever turned up. And if we put a 2-hour group on, it would be a 4-hour group, because people would turn up early to get a seat and stay later because they've been enjoying it. And it was a lovely atmosphere. And that's when I first came to work here. That was very much how it was. But as things change and needs change and the community changes and the amount of cancer diagnoses have changed, so many things have changed over the years that we've had to change, and we've had to evolve and become a little bit more specific in our offer. So now the thing that people ask for, number one is counselling, is professional counselling, which we do every day of the week. Every weekday we're open Monday to Friday, and the next most requested is therapies. So holistic therapies, and all of our therapists have an extra level of training to work with anybody with a cancer diagnosis, which is so important, because often somebody might go to a spa or a hotel and be told, I'm sorry, you can't have a treatment because you've been diagnosed with cancer. And to the therapist, they're doing the right thing, because they obviously not sometimes trained to deliver that therapy, but to the person, it just makes them feel awful and worse than they did before they asked. And we've had people come in absolute tears, because they just say it makes them just feel terrible that they can't even have a simple massage or something. And it's the one time in their lives when they really feel like they need something like that. So therapies is probably the next one. Then we do peer support groups, which we keep a little bit smaller now, so they're a little bit more personal and a little bit more give people the opportunity to talk. So still lots of laughter and fun, but a little bit less rowdy, I would say, than they have been before. So they're probably the most requested things that we have, but all of our services, none of them go unused. And if they do, they get reviewed and changed. So everything we offer really gets quite well utilised.
I mean, that sounds like a really well organised way of running it, making sure that you are changing, you are adapting, you are, like you say, things do change and people's needs change. And,
absolutely.
It sounds like you really kind of got your finger on the pulse in there in terms of, like, listening to what people are interested in, what people want. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role within the organisation?
Yeah, certainly. So I've been here since 2009. I've done pretty much each job that we've had along the way. So now my role is operations manager. So my responsibilities that mainly are for finance, funding. We're a company limited by guarantee as well as a charity, so it has to be run like a business as well as run like a charity. So there's two sets of responsibilities to take care of. So we have a board, and I report to the board, but my responsibilities is to keep on top of all those things, keep the finances in check, report the finances to the board. So very much a paperwork and number crunching behind the scenes, but that's never something that flows into the service. And I'm still very much, I will still answer the door, I'll still answer the phone, still make appointments. So it's a bit of both, really, which is important to me to keep both. I think that's how I keep in touch with what's happening and how I lead the service in that way. And managing our team. So we've got a relatively small staff team, and lots of volunteers who help us along the way. But obviously each person within that team has their needs, and from an employment perspective, I have to take good care of them, and they're well worth taking good care of. So a real mixed bag, really, of things in my role, and I absolutely love it.
What's your favourite thing about your role?
The staff, the people. That's without question. Sometimes just being around and observing the compassion, the kindness, the absolute ability to hold somebody's pain, discomfort, difficulty, not make it their own, but be there in the moment for that person, and then be ready to do that again for the next person. It still amazes me every day when I watch, when I hear on the phone, when I'm just around. It's really humbling to listen to the conversations that happen. Not that I'm listening over here in a specific way, but just picking up things, thinking, you can feel it, you can feel the difference that it makes. Listening, being silent, being present, all of the things that our staff team do still wow me to this day, and that's what keeps me working in this environment, definitely the staff people.
You mentioned there that you've been involved for, what would you say, 2009?
Yes.
And so what was your journey for getting involved in the organisation?
Well, before that, my mum had a routine mammogram, quite probably about, 2003, 4-ish. And was recalled from mammogram and had a biopsy. So that was my first experience of the fear, I guess, of cancer. Before that, I was probably quite oblivious and not really any, just peripheral things in life, but nothing that was significant or affected me. And then when she got that recall, it was that panic of thinking, oh gosh, could my mum, could it be her? Could she be one of those people? Feeling like a very alien experience, nothing I'd ever known. And everything was fine. She was recalled, had the biopsy, and told that it was nothing to worry about and carry on. And that was probably the first time when I felt that fear and thought, wow, that's quite an impact. But quite quickly, I guess, just went back to normal life after that. Once you get the relief of, oh gosh, there's nothing to worry about, let's live life to the full type feeling, which I think is quite a common thing to feel. And then in 2009, the same happened, and she was recalled. Again, very much routine mammogram. I think she actually started screening early. She was offered some early, not for any particular reason, just as a trial that was running at the time. So she'd had mammograms for years. And then when she was recalled in 2009, it wasn't the same story. And she was given a cancer diagnosis at that time. I think because we'd been through it once, we were just waiting to hear everything was fine. So even though the fear was there, it was kind of an expectation that it's probably just the same as last time and it'll probably be fine. And it wasn't. So that was my first real insight into just being absolutely petrified of what's going to happen next. And even going through those tests and things. And as a family, all sorts of going, well, what if, and all those questions. Having all those questions, but not wanting, as I mentioned before, to ask each other those questions. All we were trying to do was comfort each other. That really made me realise the impact that this can have on lives, on people's lives. Jumping forward, my mum had surgery. She had a mastectomy. She didn't actually have to have any treatment, which, everybody's situation can be slightly different. She didn't have to have radiotherapy or chemotherapy, but obviously the surgery itself was quite a significant thing for her. And she recovered really well. She recovered really quickly from the surgery. And from that point on, that was, in terms of medically, the end of her her cancer involvement, if that makes sense. Certainly not from an emotional or physical point of view, but from that period of time, which feels like a bit of a blur to me now when we think about, you know, I was talking to her about it yesterday, saying that I'd be discussing it, was that okay with her, and really thinking back to that time, thinking, gosh, you just get through it, you just get through. And in that time, she had a leaflet in her pack from the hospital, and it was a leaflet from here amongst other leaflets and other services. And I just remember looking at these leaflets thinking, gosh, Widnes is a relatively small town, lived here the majority of my life. I had no idea that up the road, near the old school uniform shop where we all in Widnes know quite well, that this service existed. I just had no idea. And I just remember thinking, gosh, isn't that strange how you can live in a town and not realise all the things that are happening? And then that made me feel a bit ignorant, really, and a little bit out of touch, I guess, with what was happening. I worked in a very corporate environment, worked in telecoms, and was very much quite career-driven and very much wanted to learn more. And after I went back to work, after mum's surgery, I felt really, like, empty, sort of, and really just didn't feel like what I was doing was of a great deal of value. And I don't mean that disrespectful to my employers. It just felt like I needed something different. Voluntary redundancy was offered across the board, and at the same time my husband noticed an advert for the centre for a part-time job. I worked full-time at the time, and financially, because I was offered redundancy, I was just kept thinking, what if I could completely change? And then I had all that self-doubt of, I've no experience, I don't know, I didn't even know it existed, and went through all, and then I just thought, just get on with it. So I got in touch, applied. I think there were a number of applicants for the job at the time, and I didn't hear anything back. I persistently mithered for over a period of about a week, and eventually was given the role. I was starting absolutely from scratch. I knew literally nothing.
What was the role, the initial role?
It was outreach worker. But it was also with an aspect of extending the opening hours and bringing in some new activities, so some Tai Chi and Zumba and some physical activities. So it was very much about branching out from what the existing service offered. I think it was something like 18 hours a week or something along those lines, so much less than I've worked before. And I was just so pleased that they'd take a chance on somebody that really didn't have a clue what they were doing at that time. And I believe it was because of the understanding that I had about how difficult it can be to go through these things and how it needs absolute compassion, and that's why I was offered the position, I believe. And it's just from then just grown and changed so much, and my eyes were opened so much to everything that's in Halton. I had no clue. I was just sleepwalking through a corporate world. I just had no idea of all the things that were available. And then part of my role when I started was go out into the community, find out what's happening, go and learn about all the things that are here to support. So I was going to all these groups and just totally, it was a whirlwind of experience of going, gosh, there's things to support disability, there's things for different age groups, there's all sorts of things. And then at the time the then voluntary centre, I just couldn't believe that I'd not seen all those things. So it was, I wouldn't choose my mum to have gone through what she went through. I wouldn't pick for anybody to go through it. It's not a nice experience. There's some, and we see this here a lot, there are often some good things come out of some very bad things. And for me personally, finding that there's a whole other world than the one I was in is what brought me here and what's led me to really enjoy working in the environment I'm in.
It sounds like a roller coaster of emotions and ups and downs, and then I think left and right. You mentioned that your mum had gone for mammograms, and it was twice, and first time didn't find anything. Second, and was there any kind of history of cancer in the family at that point, or anything like that, or? Yeah,
that there was history, but again we didn't understand quite what that meant. So my mum knew that. My nan was quite an old mum. She had my mum quite late. So some of her sisters were much older and had died before that. We didn't really know them. So there was a lot. We knew there was something, but we didn't know what the history was. And so it's genetically, it's really difficult to understand the medical chance of increased chances. So it was a case of, then I was thinking, well, gosh, does that mean that that my chances, and I had a young daughter at that time, does that mean my daughter? And it does send you into that thing of thinking, I really need to understand this. But in reality, the average person isn't going to understand the medical genetics of it, and you don't need to. You just need to go and ask the question of, you know, is there a need for me to be screened? Is there a need for me to do anything different? It's just asking those questions, which is exactly what I did at the time. So I was in my early 30s, I think. And I just made a GP appointment and just said, do I need to do anything? Is there any risk? The GP very cleverly and carefully in a medical way did a quick diagram, which she did explain. I won't attempt to explain because I won't get it right because I'm not medically trained. But it was really interesting to see how they look at what your potential risks and history are. And her answer was, no more risk than the next person. There's nothing to suggest. Just be vigilant about checking your own body, looking for signs and symptoms in the same way that you were before, and don't add any extra pressure to your life. Just be as vigilant as you would have been before.
How did you feel after that?
I guess some relief, but it did really make me think, be more vigilant and think more about checking properly, finding out how to check properly, and it's all there. All the information is there to check. It's easier to ignore than it is to look into. But once you look, it's not, and get into the routine, it's not difficult to do. A few years on, I did find a breast lump and did think, right, now I've got to do what I'm promoting, what I'm saying to people, but didn't feel the fear any less. And I think sometimes people in settings where there's an expectation that, they know what to do and they're okay, that you think, well, you won't be as frightened. I was petrified, absolutely petrified of thinking, gosh, imagine if I'm going to go through all this, my daughter's going to watch me go through all this. I had a fantastic service within 2 weeks from making a GP appointment and saying, I think I found a lump. Very quickly was sent for scans, ultrasound, and within less than 2 weeks found out there was nothing, no further action, no biopsy needed. And it is 2 weeks of being worried and frightened, but then the reassurance that I've done the right thing, I've checked, and everything's fine. And the same will happen if any other changes happen in my body or any of my families. It's just a case of, it's frightening, but the sooner you can go and get that looked at, the sooner you can know what you're dealing with or move on. Just depends on facing it, really, is the main thing.
I think that's it. We've been in a position now where we spoke to a lot of people about the journeys in different ways and things like that, and this comes through time and time again, the importance of getting it checked out, and the dangers of leaving it and dangers of waiting. And it's so easy to go, I know that not with cancer or anything like that, but having doctor's appointments in the past, and you kind of go, I need to get that sorted, but actually something busy's come up, so I'll just not do it then. And before you know it, it's a couple of weeks, and then before you know it, it's a month, and then before you know it, it's 6 months, and you're still not gone and seen it, and things can be getting worse and worse and getting out of control. Where you can go into the GP early on, getting it checked. If it's clear, it's nothing brilliant, you can put your mind at rest. But if it is something, it's so important to get it sorted or the progress started towards it early, to give you the best chance of healing and getting better. Just really interesting hearing you kind of speak about that, and you having to go to the GP, and so well done for going straight away. I guess it's the big thing though. It's like you say, it's easy to kind of think about or to say, but to actually do it when everyone's so busy with so many different things going on, it's something that can easily be not done.
Absolutely.
So we've been piloting a new project with you recently called Cover and Create. It's been amazing to be involved in. I've run some of the sessions myself where we work with some of your users who, and each week we did a different creative subject. It was just a chance for them to kind of come and escape and learn some new skills, get some social elements to it. We're small groups of up to about 10, and each week they do something from animation to photography to graphic design, and just mix it up a little bit. And it has been like a really nice project, and it's been great. So thank you for your help with that. Are there any other kind of interesting and creative workshops and activities that you do within the centre?
Yeah, we have a number of things, and just to add to that, really, that project's been amazing, and actually had all the staff quite jealous because we really wanted to come along and join in, and just even from the images and the things that people are learning, it's just absolutely fantastic, things they never would have done or tried. So thank you so much for that. It's been lovely to watch that unfold as the weeks have gone on, and we've heard rave reviews, so thank you. We do have a number of different things, and we do sometimes have pilots and trials. So we've been piloting therapeutic art recently, which is led by a professional counsellor. It's kind of nothing to do with art. It's to do with using art, different ways of expression, really. So it may be that, blank canvas and a load of paints, or chalks and black paper, or whatever angle each week is used. But it's very much having a conversation about emotions and effects and things that happen, and using colour and shapes and different ways to explore that. So that's been absolutely fantastic way of people who perhaps said, I don't want to talk, but I'll come along and see what this class is like. And then it's a way in for them. It's a way for them to tap into things. So that's been really eye-opening for people and a real experience. And it's that thing of looking at something from a different angle. It's worked brilliantly. So long may that last. We're going to continue to help that to grow.
Fantastic. And I've heard that you do trips away and things like that? Or?
Yeah, we actually have a respite caravan in North Wales, in Tulaka. So it's a beautiful caravan that we take great care of to make sure that it's a really peaceful and restful place. So it's on quite a quiet site near to the beach. And what that's used for is predominantly respite breaks. So people who are either going through treatment or recently finished treatment, or perhaps they're caring for somebody and a little break might help them, or they may take along the person who they're caring for. Sometimes people, if they're grieving, it's somewhere different for them to go and a bit of sea air, walks outdoors, just something different scenery and things. So that's very, very well utilised. We've even had people use that when they are travelling back into Clatterbridge, because it's very near, so you can be there, inside an hour. So it also means that people, if they go and they don't feel wonderful, they can come home. And we've deliberately positioned it so that it's easy enough to get to. And when it's not in use for respite, so if we have some gaps, then people who've been before can book to go as a holiday as well. So to afford that, really, because obviously it's quite expensive to run that sort of facility, but it's just an absolute blessing for people. We've had lots of experience. Sadly, sometimes people have had the very last holiday there. Sometimes the people have had the first holiday since they've finished treatment. There's lots of different variations. And we love it. Our board are absolutely just over the moon to be able to continue to offer that. So that works really well. Quite often people who book into that as well, they have young people in the family. So Sam, who runs our counselling service, is a counsellor. She does adult counselling and children, young people's counselling. She goes into schools and works with young people. So that can be if they have a parent who has a cancer diagnosis, or a grandparent or a sibling. So it's some effect in their lives. And there's a real temptation to shield children very much from that, which is an understanding. It's protective, and I certainly felt that way when my daughter was little. What we learn from therapeutic activity is that too much protection means that, children's imaginations, they hear things, they pick up things. Sometimes it is beneficial to discuss them, so that's where Sam comes in, and works very much with the family and the school to then support young people. And sometimes it's them that then use the caravan. So sometimes there's a family that will then take, and those children will experience that, a little break as well with their family. So that's a nice aspect as well to offer to that. So we've worked now, Sam's worked for, I think it's since 2018 in schools. Always new referrals coming in, and it's brave of parents, I think, to say, yes, professional counsel person, you can work with my child. Yeah. It's difficult because sometimes, things may be discussed that are very emotional, but Sam is very experienced and will absolutely, follow the right path to support young people. So it works fantastically.
Yeah, it just really got me reflecting then on the phrase that we've been using quite a lot is touched by cancer, and it really is something that affects not just the person with the diagnosis, but also the whole family and friends around them, and having that facility to go in and work with young people, but also work with family members and even close friends. It can be a devastating kind of like a ripple effect, I guess, like across. It's not just the person with the diagnosis. So obviously it's an absolutely life-changing and potentially devastating thing to happen to them, but like, yeah, all those family members and things like that. So it's fantastic to hear that you've got such a wide-reaching service that that it can help people around as well, especially the young people that you were just saying then. It sounds like a really important service.
Yeah, it's hugely beneficial, and I think we all understand wanting to protect young people, and there's obviously an appropriate way to discuss things, but Sam does some work as well, sort of pre-bereavement, when they know that a child may be perhaps losing a parent or a grandparent, and nobody can prepare fully for those things, but she does have some certain activities and sessions that she can do that's just exploring feelings, and sometimes she's done things like create memory jars, and very much again with the permission of the family and the parents, but work towards understanding what that means. And then, although when that happens still very much is devastating, at least there's some acknowledgement that can happen, and it's not in an entire shock, and there's there's support then beyond that as well to understand. But even using words and using the word death, some people won't say the word cancer, and the words that sometimes get used around young people can be really confusing. So saying somebody's gone to sleep when they've died is potentially, depending on the child's perception, well, what happens when I go to sleep, or what happens at night when everyone goes to sleep. There's so many things that, we can over-worry about everything, but there are things that then that's where Sam can come in to work through those things and just take away some of that fear. So, yeah, it's very involved what she does, and very, very important.
I guess just bringing it back round to the Widnes and Cancer Support, it sounded like you have some absolutely amazing therapies and counselling and therapeutic options and groups and so many different things that people might want to be involved in. If somebody did want to get involved, what's the best way for them to do that?
We have a number of avenues, really. We do have an outreach worker in our team. So that's a role, as I mentioned, that I did before, and it's an important role. So we do have an outreach worker out in the community. So wherever she's at, she tends to share a location and things. So actually, meeting her is an option. But picking up the phone, giving us a call can be the first point, or asking somebody else to ring on your behalf with your permission, and we'll give a call back. Register on our website. We've got a big click here, register here button, and then we'll make contact. Email, Facebook, any which way. We try and make ourselves as available as possible, so that whichever way people prefer to make contact. And from that initial point, then it's very much led by, well, are you ready to come in and have a chat to somebody, or would you rather chat on the phone? We offer telephone counselling. We just try to make it as accessible and as easy for people to find as possible. So any of those options, and once you've made that first contact, from that point on, the services are available and here.
That sounds brilliant. I'm sure throughout your time you've given lots and lots of pieces of advice, so I'm going to ask you probably quite a tricky question, but if I was going to kind of boil it down to giving people that have been touched by cancer one piece of advice, what would your kind of like go-to piece of advice be?
First, I guess, is talk to someone. Whoever that may be, and hopefully that will lead to, if somebody's worried about changing the bodies, that person will help and support them, encourage them to go and get things checked. Speak up. That's the first point, I think, of everything. Sometimes we get very much in our own heads about things and worry and stress, and it's old phrases say about a problem shared is a problem halved, but as soon as you speak to somebody, that can be the beginning of really feeling better and really working towards whatever it is that needs to happen. And I think that applies to all aspects of life, as well as health and cancer related issues. But that's definitely my main piece of advice, is talk to someone who you can trust.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. It's been really nice speaking to you and finding out more about your own journey, but also a lot more about Widnes Cancer Support Group and how they can help local people.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Touched by Cancer. If anything you've heard raises concerns about symptoms, treatment, or screening, please consult your GP for advice. Early detection plays a crucial role in the effective treatment. If you're interested in exploring services mentioned during these podcasts, we encourage you to click on the link in the description to visit their website and find out more about the amazing services they offer. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to Touched by Cancer. Take care, stay strong, and remember, you're not alone in this journey.